I have woodpeckers all around me and heat because it is hot. The high today is going to be 102. It's about 9 a.m. and I'm already baking, but I had to get out to show you this Project E, my e-mountain bike. And let me tell you, I wouldn't have made it through this summer. It's been so brutally hot without the power of this e-mountain bike. Yeah, I'm running from the morning sun, so the location keeps changing, but let me tell you what I've updated on this. Well, first and foremost, this frame, this motor, if I haven't already mentioned it, this was the first frame designed specifically for this Bafang M510 motor, 95 Newton meters of torque. A very powerful setup, a 720 watt-hour battery. Range claims say up to 60 miles, and I believe it if I were to stick to eco mode, and these are all trail miles. I have around 200 on this thing. It's super efficient, super powerful, and it really doesn't look like an e-bike frame so much. It's not a super huge down tube. Very, very nice. Oh, and one modification I've made, I did paint over the factory branding, and look how well I did. This was Krylon. You can really, from a few feet back, can't even tell. It blends in so well. Dropper equipped from the factory. This is, I believe, a 150 millimeter dropper. It works great, and I added a saddle. I went with this color to somewhat match the tan sidewalls, and then I initially planned on tan grips to go with that, but I had problems. The tires to the saddle, that can be a little off. When you're up top, the saddle and the grips really do have to match, and that's a tough build. Different manufacturers, different colors of tan, and trust me, there are a lot of shades of tan. But I've had this on here for over 100 miles, I think about 150, and look at that, all the graphics still holding up great, and it's comfortable. It's thin. Doesn't look bulbous, but it feels kind of like a bulbous saddle. Ventilation holes. It's a good saddle. I'm happy with it. I'll put a link to it down in the description. Note, my links are affiliate links. Well, not all, but some links, like the one for this saddle. Factory bars, factory stem, factory display. When it comes to actual e-mountain bikes, you don't want something poking up. You want something that fits flush, so if the bike flips, it doesn't go over on the display. And that's one of the telltale signs of a true e-mountain bike. And this one is. Cogster grips are new. My first upgrades were fun grips, which I've really enjoyed on mountain bikes, but it turns out when you're on an e-mountain bike and you're putting significantly more miles in, they get uncomfortable quick. These kind of taper outward. I don't know how well you can see that, but they taper outward, and that makes it really comfortable on the hands. I can put 20, 30 miles on these, and my hands aren't hurting like they were with the fun grips. Cogster makes good stuff. I bragged about the little end caps with the Cogster logo, and then I lost one. I believe this happened when I had to use some strategic emergency braking. I showed another video. I'm pretty sure that end cap is embedded in that mud bank. Maybe if I get back up there, if you're riding Columbia, Tennessee, Chickasaw Trace, look for my end cap. If you find it, I'll send you the money to mail it back to me. Part of my debadging involves some stickers like this Marzocchi sticker, Marzocchi, however you want to say it. That's for this fork. It came with this fork. The Bomber Z2, a true e-bike rated, e-mountain bike rated fork. 140 millimeters of travel on this thing. I have enjoyed this fork. And I'm trying to start a new trend with it. I left this rubber packing guard on. I figure if the Chrysler or Dodge people can do it, so can I. Originally, the tires on this were Maxxis Recon Race, and they are good tires, but I found out here with the loose gravel on the berms, they were a bit slippery, so I upgraded to something more aggressive, something with cool tan sidewalls. Schwalbe Knobby Nicks. I've used Knobby Nick tires before. I like them, though I am considering going with the Magic Mary up front here to give just a little bit more traction. This is tubeless ready, but I'm still running tubes. This tube is a Bontrager, and I upgraded it with a new stem cap. I finally found these. I'd been looking for them, which is a story I'm going to get to in just a moment. But I thought that anodized red kind of goes with my subtle red trim theme. Very little red, but enough to have it as part of the trim. Such as with these pedals, new pedals, I started out with, I can't remember, oh yeah, my Fookers, my needle-bearing Fookers that wore out after 100 miles or so, 150 miles I think it was. These are Stamp 1s, the large size, and wow, It's going to be hard to go back. These large footprint size, I can move around. I can have my footing all wrong and then still keep going on the trail and not have to slow down or stop to reposition. These spikes, very grippy on my shoes. And the red kind of goes with the bike theme, even though it's just a little bit off color-wise. The beauty of having this down here like those tan sidewalls. When it's a little bit away, it doesn't look so bad. It blends in, even if it's a shade off. I've already talked a bit about this motor, this frame made specifically for this motor, the first one in the US made for it. M510 from Bafang, 250 watts, but 95 Newton meters of torque. This is a true mountain goat. Anyone that's ridden this has just been amazed at how well it climbs in boost mode. And it can climb for quite a while because hiding inside here is a 720 watt hour battery. This chainring came with the motor. It is, I believe, a 40 tooth, but I did upgrade the group set back here finally. When I first got this bike, it had a Shimano Altus on it, and that Altus was dropping chains left and right, but it would drop them up front, up here on the chain ring, so I added that chain guide, completely eliminated that, and got me some new respect for the Altus, because I've been riding this for almost 200 miles with an Altus, and other than a little ding in here, it has worked without dropping once I added that chain guide. But that wasn't good enough because I knew all along I was going to upgrade it back here. And now I have with this micro shift advent. This is a 9-speed. You know, I've used these before to great success. Clutched. That means it's going to start eliminating or at least greatly reducing the chain slap. But I added something else just in case. This rubber guard, look at that. Self-adhesive. I also bought this on Amazon. I'll put a link to that down in the description. It was a 2-pack. So I had 2 times to get it right, but I had this 3M adhesive on the back, and it really stuck. I kind of got it a little forward of where I was thinking to put it, but the instructions... Oh, let me show you the instructions. Mostly in Chinese, but over here on the English side, or at least the part that I can read that's English, talks about cleaning it, peeling back the paper, and that was 3M adhesive, very sticky 3M adhesive. But then it says, aim at the place to be protected, stick it, press it flat, and the edge shall not be tilt. Tilt with an E. Well, the problem is this tapers and tilts in and down there, so I was scared to move it back. So I'm going to see how this works. Most of my chips and scratches, you can see, were in this area. Only had a couple back here, and I think that's from where the chain dropped up front, back before I had this chain guide, when I had the Altus back there. So I'm thinking this is going to work well, and I like that I didn't have to zip tie this, and trust me, it's on there because I said it's a 2-pack. When I first put this on, I thought, well, I'll take this back off, see if I can move it back just a little bit. It's not coming off, not without some very heavy effort. So I'm going to leave it on here. It's going to stay adhered, no zip ties. Very nice, kind of factory looking. I mean, look at that. Looks like it came on the bike. You may have noticed black zip tie, black zip tie. Looks kind of red on camera, but it's actually pink. I couldn't find any black ones, so this is a temporary holder. And back to the advent, the clutched advent, which is going to help, even though I have that protector now. There is the new cassette, 42 tooth up top. I'll put on your screen what the actual tooth count is here. But I've ran these with great success before, and that completely upgrades this drivetrain. Though I could still, and that is the factory, I say completely upgrades, but this is the factory chainring. There is the possibility that in the future I might change that. I have had to tighten that castle nut, or had the bike shop tighten it, but that was one bit of maintenance that I did have to do. Wait, there is one more part of this drivetrain that's new, and it's going to be, well, how do I say this? Have you ever worked on something and it went so well that you thought, this can't be right, it's been going so well? Well, this final component was part of that, actually, the entire rear group set. But this chain, this KMC chain, that is a KMC E9, and you can see that it's e-bike tech, e-bike ready. When you get to these high torque mid-drive motors, they really do a number on chain, so you have to have a good chain. I went with this. This is what my bike shop buddy that's big into e-bikes recommended. It's the only ones that he said he's had work, these KMC E-chains. So I added one But that's where things started going just bizarrely weird. I bolted this on, bolted on the cassette, I bolted this on, and right out of the gate, I felt like it was lined up pretty good. I put this on, and it was exactly the right size out of the box. I didn't have to remove any links. That has never happened to me before. But then it got weirder, because that derailleur that I bolted on, that I said bolted on, and I thought looked like it was lined up properly, I didn't have to adjust anything, and I am not making this up. A new chain that I didn't have to take any links out on, a new cassette, a new derailleur, and everything, oh, and a new shifter up top. A new Advent shifter. It shifts perfectly without any adjustment. And I told myself, something, I don't want to be negative, but when it's going so good, something's bound to burst the bubble. Weird, but I'll take it. Anything that works. And then the bubble got even bigger. In a previous video, when I replaced this tube, I told you I had looked for these red anodized valve stem caps. I knew I had a package, a multicolor package somewhere. I couldn't find it anywhere. And I had rifled through my toolbox multiple times looking for it, and I had to get my tools out, my chain breaker, the cassette tool, all my wrenches, and so on, the cable cutter. And it was when I went back the next morning, after all the success that night. I walk in the next morning, I had been through that toolbox 3 or 4 times. I walk in to get the cable cutter, and to get these, which I knew where those were, and laying face up with all of them visible on top of my toolbox, or at least opened up. I have a picture of it. This is how I walked up to it. Were these, how I missed that last night, I have no clue. But there they were, and now here that is. Yeah, isn't that odd? It just goes so well. So imagine my surprise when I get out onto the trail, get ready for my first ride with it in its new incarnation, and I discover I left the battery at home. Yeah, I knew it was too good to be true, so I had to pedal up the hill. I'm at the midway point at Wildwood. I had to pedal this 50-something pound bike up the hill without a battery. Thank goodness I had the new 42-tooth cassette back here to help me out. A funny anecdote about this, though, this cover, when I first rode this bike, my very first ride on this bike, I got to the backside of the trail and was going to jump at power line on it because I thought, wow, I've got all this power. And I ran over this. It fell off the bike, and I ran over it with the rear tire. And I thought, what a piece of junk right out of the gate. And then I realized this has a button that you actually have to press up when you put it in. So, no, it's turned out to definitely not be a hunk of junk. It's been an awesome bike, but you do have to press up to keep that in place. Live and learn. I'm still rocking the factory brakes on this. The Tektro hydraulics, they have worked wonders so far. Last night when I took off that rear wheel, I looked at the pads and thought, wow, these are wearing really good. But then my buddy Steve-O reminded me my primary brake is my front, and my rear brake, well, I use my left arm grabbing onto trees. Yeah.
I saw you reach for the
So the new joke is front brake primary, rear brake grab a tree, actual rear brake is just an auxiliary. How does it ride though? Well, obviously I've had to pedal this uphill without power, but I am about to go down Magnolia and I have a brand new camera on. I had some problems with it when I first started, so we'll see if I can record it. If not, I'll paste some stuff in here. But I'm gonna ride this down the hill. I know though what an Advent ride's like and how well it's gonna work out. It's gonna be great on this bike. A last minute voiceover addition here. I want to mention that I'm listening to see if this derailleur makes noise, which of course I know it's not. And you also hear me shifting, testing the shifting as I'm going. This is a downhill run down Magnolia. Keep in mind, I don't have e-bike power and I'm on a 50-something pound bike. Also of note, if you ride Magnolia, you'll notice I go from one point of it to the next point. That's because I guess I haven't figured out the stabilization on this new camera, so I'm saving you from the most jolty parts, kind of like that. Back to the last section of this trail and then to my post-ride analysis. That worked exactly like I knew it would, like I remember on these advents. Very good, gonna make this e-mountain bike even better. That's my take and my new upgrades. Let me know what you think about my component selection. A budget choice, but a choice that I knew would work well. It and the other components I've added to this bike have turned it into a true mountain bike beast, or true mountain beast. Actually, make that a mountain goat, because that's what some of the other riders have been calling this. A goat, because it'll climb up hills so well. I know one thing that's going to make it even better is when I get back home and put the battery back in it. This wouldn't be a good drivetrain video if I didn't do the bounce test to show you how well this new derailleur's working. And I made sure I hit every bump I could coming down Magnolia, and look at that. Not a mark. Excellent. Comment below, let me hear what you have to say. Let me hear your opinions. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.